Ooh, welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host, Scotty McCoy, and boy, do I have a surprise for you. I have on Zoom with me right now Naomi Grossman, and she played Pepper in American Horror Story Season 2 Asylum and Season 4 Freak Show. Hey Naomi, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so excited to have you on my show. I've been looking forward to this since your publicist helped me set this up, and I'm so glad we can make it happen.
Great. Me too.
Yes. So the first question I got for you is, how did you get your start into acting?
Gosh. I just went back in my mind to Love and Care Preschool in Denver, Colorado, where I played the little bear in Goldilocks and the Three Bears. No, I've always sort of wanted to be on stage. You know, my mom tells stories of me, dancing in the aisles in the movie theater when we went to go see Fantasia. I wanted to be one of those hippos. What can I say? No, I've just always, I was very lucky in that I had parents that really valued culture, the arts. We'd go to the ballet, the opera, the theater, the film, you name it. So I was exposed to culture from a really young age and just always kind of wanted to be up there. So that was part of it. Then once I was about maybe 11, 12, I got involved with a little children's theater group in Denver, where I was from. And we performed every Saturday at the Comedy Works in Denver, which felt like a very adult thing at the time because it was like a comedy nightclub at night, but then by day the kids took over. And but yeah, I was started doing that, then slowly got, kind of involved in like anything and everything there was to do in Denver, which isn't a whole lot, but, regional commercials, Father Dowling Mysteries. I'm totally aging myself, but, just kind of got busy. Of course, I got my SAG card there at the age of 15, which kind of took me out of the game actually, because there just wasn't a whole lot of union work. So at that point, I had to move to Hollywood. Went and got my degree in theater, of course, in Chicago at Northwestern first. But then I came out here. I just really never had a plan B. It was always sort of, when people would be like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was kind of like, well, I'm kind of already an actress, so maybe I'll just do that. It's just sort of like, that's kind of all I ever wanted and all I've ever been.
Absolutely. And I mean, you did wonderful as Pepper, obviously. I mean, when I first seen that character on American Horror Story, I'm like, I'm so in love with that character already. Like, that character just like resonated with me. And then when they mentioned that she passed away, obviously at the end of season 2, and then when season 4 came out, and I'm like, wait, is that Pepper again? I thought she died. And then it's obviously before she was at the asylum, and it's like that character always resonated with me. I absolutely loved it. It's such an iconic character in American Horror Story history. Like, it really is.
Yeah, the Pepper fans are like a whole special breed. I can spot ya from a mile away. When I go to these horror cons and I see, you got the tough guys with the black t-shirts and the tats and the piercings and the beards and then there's the like lovely little Pepper fans. Not that you're lovely or little. I mean, I don't know. You're kind of small on my Zoom screen, but the point is it's a whole like another kind of person, and nothing against the guys in the black t-shirts with the beards and the tats, but we're a special little club, and I love that.
Absolutely. And I have to give a shout out to my client at work, Becky. She is a huge Pepper fan herself. And when I told her I was interviewing you, she's like, no way. So I had to give her a shout out.
I love that.
Yes. So
hi, Becky.
Awesome. So she said, hi, Becky. So the next question I got for you is, what was your audition like for American Horror Story?
So I was gonna say it was an audition like any other, but obviously it wasn't. It changed everything. But I mean, it was like any other in that I got a phone call from my agent at the time saying you've got an audition tomorrow. It consisted of I had to do a scene of Jessica Lange's from season 1, and I had to do a little improv in which they gave me a ball and tried to get me to get them to play with me as if I were a child, like right. Say 4 years old. So, this is kind of standard actor life. So in a way, like that's what we do, right. What's special about it, well, is, the fact is American Horror Story is so secretive. It's very common for them to give you sort of like dummy sides. And, you're not actually auditioning for the role that you're, going to play. And the fact is the minute they put it out there, if they say, microcephalic pinhead, all of a sudden jig is up, all the actors and agents and managers in Hollywood know what American Horror Story is doing this season, and they can't have that. So, right. I had no idea what I was auditioning for, and that's kind of unique. And of course, obviously, when I walked away, I was like, "What the heck was that?" Because and even then, I didn't really know until well after I was cast. I was, right. Get in those makeup tests, talking to makeup, and they were like, "So we're making you up to look like this, so you're probably gonna want to act like that." I mean, it all goes right. together. But so it was. It was very familiar and not all at once.
That's awesome, though. It really is, and it is a life-changing role, obviously. I mean, you, like I said, you are so iconic in that. Like, Pepper is just such a pop culture icon that, I mean, anybody really should know who Pepper is at this point. If I would think so.
Thank you. I think it's really a testament to the audience, though, because the audience decides, like, you know what I mean? Like when, Ryan Murphy and the masterminds behind the show sat down and, and wrote out this, season 2, I'm sure they were like, and then Pepper, you know what I mean? Right. Like they didn't know, they were just sort of slinging wackos at a canvas and seeing what stuck, and the fact is, like, for whatever reason, the audience really resonated with this little character, and that's it like I said, it's cool that it's kind of it takes two to tango. Like, it's not just the creators or those that are making it. Absolutely. It's you guys too. Like, we are, it's almost a collaboration in that regard.
Absolutely. And I mean, it really is. And I mean, the fact that he did, like you said, they didn't know that Pepper was going to be big. They didn't know that Sister Jew to be, or Kit Walker, or Lana Winters. But look how, like, it blossoms. And like you said, it's the audience, because the audience is really what makes or breaks a character and or a season.
Right. I mean, you remember American Idol. For all I know, it's still on. But at once upon a time, you could really affect people's future by whether you dialed in or not. It's the same way now. Like, literally, like, I live in this house where I live, surrounded by Pepper pictures because of fans like you. Like, you have changed my life. And absolutely. It's not just American Idol these days. It's all the shows, Absolutely. Just so social media is allowing fans to react and interact with the, creators of these shows and really, affect change. So I always tell people, if you want to see more Pepper, well, get on the computer. If you don't, then go for a walk. I don't know, but step away from the computer.
Absolutely. So the next question I got for you is, so obviously you first appeared in season 2. So you were brought back for season 4. How did that come about?
It's interesting. I learned early on that I'd be back, early on meaning maybe March. And, we didn't start shooting till July. So I had that secret for a long time. And it seemed like I was going to play Pepper. But of course that was unprecedented. That had never happened before. So I wasn't sure, what to make of that. Then at the time it seemed like this could be some good negotiating power, you know what I mean, like only I can play Pepper, so if they're really bringing back Pepper, then maybe I need a raise. No, but then I remember in New Orleans, literally I am on like in the makeup trailer, and that's when I remember Ryan Murphy specifically saying to me, so are you Pepper and I was like, okay, they're literally coming back with shears to shave my head. So like, can we definitely decide this now? Like, I don't know, dude, like you're the boss, like, you tell me. So, yeah, it was definitely, I mean, as with everything in this show, it's like all shrouded with mystery. And in my case, I feel like I'm usually the last to learn anything.
Right.
Yeah.
that was funny. Like, oh my God, they're literally coming with shears. Yeah, I mean, let me know now, please.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. So, if you could play any character from Asylum and any character you could play from Freak Show, other than your own, who would it be and why? So, one character from Freak Show and one from Asylum.
Oh gosh. Oh, I don't know. Oh, that's so hard. I mean, the one thing about the show is the characters are so rich.
Yes.
Everyone, no one is, no one is all evil or all good. Well, if anyone's all good, it's Pepper. But there's all shades of gray, just like humans, you know what I mean? No one is all bad. I mean, I was about to say something very controversial, but I was gonna say, like, even the most like iconic villains in history have like their intriguing, attractive qualities. Let's say, Hannibal Lecter, like he was still like a very cultured, well-spoken, articulate brain, like
absolutely
a psychopath. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is like this show is so great at those dualities, those dichotomies, like I mean, which comes to mind, like Sister Mary Eunice, the way she plays both the, the kind of hooker and saint, or demon and, angel. For that matter, Frances Conroy, who plays the kind of butch, bull dyke kind of, badass roommate, inmate, and the dark angel.
Yes.
I mean, Sister Jude, who's both the she's both the director, she's running the asylum, and then she's in the asylum. I mean, I know I can't pick Pepper, but Pepper's both, this sort of simpleton, and then this evolved sort of. So, I guess I'm not answering your question, but it's hard because this show is so chock full of such complex characters, and Freak Show too, Bet and Dot, that would have been a blast to play. You've got literally side by side this, duality that I'm talking about. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I personally don't. I can't imagine a cooler character in my mind than Pepper.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess what I loved about it is like I could just play. Like I was given one piece of direction, and it was 2 syllables. No, 3 syllables, 2 words. do Schlitzie. Schlitzie was the real life microcephalic after whom Pepper was modeled. And so as long as I was doing Schlitzie, I was doing my job. And that was so beautiful. Like as an actor, to have such specific direction, like I knew exactly what to do, and yet still give me the freedom to really like play. Which, you know, as an improviser, that's like, you know,
absolutely
carte blanche. It's just, that's wow, it doesn't get any better. So I don't know, like I said, I'd be hard pressed to find Pepper to beat Pepper, but you know, I just and like I said, as much as like, who doesn't want to be Elsa Mars, you know what I mean? Wear those costumes and sing those songs, and again, such pathos, you know what I mean? She's obviously such a like tragic, like flawed character, and yet played so exquisely. I wouldn't even try touching that, but
you know, oh my god, Jessica Lange, just an icon in and of her own right, you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to beat that. So what was the best part about filming American Horror Story season 2 and the best part about filming season 4, and what was the worst part about both seasons?
Okay, best part and worst part about those seasons. Okay. Okay. Well, the best part of the best part of Asylum was just that I had a job. I had literally, like, the 22 years prior to that, I had you know, I've been acting, like I said, since I was 15 years old. I've been in, you know, slinging away, but you know, let's face it, that wasn't paying the bills, and so I was having to, you know, you name it, drive the Red Bull car, dance for money at bar mitzvahs, you know, model nude in art classes, you know, teaching Spanish, and you name it, like I, you know, so the fact that I was all of a sudden like actually working as an actor, and don't get me wrong, I still had to, like, when I punched out at Paramount, I had to zoom over to the Beverly Hills Lingual Institute and, you know, conjugate verbs there. So I was still, you know, but the fact is, like, all of a sudden I could like dust off that desperate wannabe actor stench and like really like be an actor, and not only that, but I was being rewarded, like bam bam bam, like you name it. I'm driving down the street and there's a Pepper for President poster on the telephone pole, or, you know, I open my computer and holy crap, like my IMDb's gone from 93,000 to 300, you know, it's like, you know, so it was like my life changed overnight, and that was the best part. Awesome. The worst part, I mean, I don't know if I could call it the worst, because it was part of it, and I wouldn't be Pepper without it, but, you know, the makeup obviously presented a lot of challenges. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself, you know, without some help. I couldn't just graze the craft services. You know, I needed my teeth out to do that. You know, I couldn't, you know, all your little time wasters on set, because, you know, if you've ever been on a TV set, it's like, hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. And so, you know, all of my little time wasters, like texting, were gone. Like, I need somebody else's finger or a stylist, which I only learned about like at the end of the season somehow. You know, I couldn't scratch my, like, you'd have to remember, okay, now is when you blow your nose for the last time today. Like, this is it, get it out, you know, like literally. You know, the lens, the wonky lens, I hated that thing. That was probably my least favorite part. I I don't just fancy having folks' fingers in my eye. Call me kooky. So yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be Pepper without those, the makeup and that, wonky lens. But like I said, they obviously it presented certain challenges, certainly.
Absolutely.
As far as the best and worst of Freak Show, oh gosh. Well, part of it was just the experience of being on location was so magical. New Orleans is such a special place in the world, and to have to quit that Spanish class, Spanish job, to literally like leave and say like, I don't know when I'm coming back. And I never did. Was pretty great. And to be able to go and like basically like live in a freak dorm and AKA haunted hotel for those 6 months, with Dandy down the corridor and Amazon Eves cooking tonight. Like that was a really kind of magical time. My least favorite, but it's also what made it so special ultimately. Again, it's all linked, right? I had a lot of, again, the not knowing was really hard. Like the whole time I was there, I was like, what am I doing here exactly? Like, they brought me back, but I'm playing with string, or I'm delivering the fat lady food. Like I'm not like just a background extra, but I'm also like, what's the point? Like if you're gonna bring Pepper back, like bring Pepper back, and so I basically spent the first 9 episodes like wondering where this was going. And I mean, because like I said, not even I knew. It wasn't until they called me and said, the 10th episode is out, meaning, written, this one you should probably read. Not that I didn't read the episodes, but the anticipation of that was kind of agonizing, especially not knowing if it would even happen, hoping. But of course, that episode unto itself was probably my favorite thing. I mean, that rivaled the 5-month buildup living in New Orleans with, my new best friends. Yeah, I mean, what a gift that episode was to me and to, Pepper fans everywhere. It was really pretty magical.
It really was. And
I mean, as an actor, I created my own, backstory, obviously, but that nothing as wonderful as that. I couldn't dream of it.
Right. And I was super sad and heartbroken when I saw that when Salty died, and Pepper, you just gave a magical performance about, how you just lost, your husband. I think it was your husband in the episode.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just hit every feeling in my body. Like it was just such an amazing performance. It really was. And, you did it with grace, and obviously it led up to you being, going to live with your sister, and then I think it was your sister. It's been a while since I watched it. But then going to end up going to the asylum, where it kind of is where it picks up where season 2 started. Like it all literally led to each other, and we haven't seen anything like this before in American Horror Story. We didn't have crossover events where Pepper's in season 2, now she's in season 4. What? And then it leads up to how she got to the asylum in season 2. Like it really, like this is the first time we actually saw this happen, and it was amazing how it was done. And it made a lot of sense then. It's like, this is really, really cool. Like this is where this series is going.
Yeah. Really, no, I agree. It was like, I just actually posted something on the socials today. There was like most paused moments of American Horror Story. And I mean, it's cool that I'm still like, in the zeitgeist. But it's true. It's one of those moments where you're like, record
Right.
scratch. Like, what does this mean? Like, what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, the next question I got for you is, can you please walk us through the experience of filming? And I'm sure you got this question a lot, the name game, and what it was like to be doing such an iconic scene in American Horror Story history.
Again, you don't know it's iconic until like the audience decides that.
Absolutely.
For all we knew, it was just this could be a giant flop. Because let's face it, it's kind of weird. Like, it's a whole horror show, and now all of a sudden we're singing and dancing.
You're
like,
doing a musical.
yes. No, it was no, that was like the most fun day of my life. I mean, first of all, I'm getting paid, which again was something I hadn't been for like the 22 years prior. To sing and dance and just let my freak flag fly, literally. Like, and as an actress, I am, I come from the theater, and you can tell just talking to me, like, I'm very kind of effusive, and like I talk with my hands and I use my whole body, and I'm very expressive. I mean, I'm a true performer, right? On the
absolutely.
So oftentimes, I'll get direction like, take it down a notch, just, throw it away, let it go, do nothing. Like, that's my like constant like soundtrack when I'm acting. But this was the one time when I was really able to just let it rip. And I'll never forget hearing one of the ADs over a large megaphone, because we're in this day room full of hundreds of people, basically on a megaphone said, okay, everyone can go bigger except Pepper. which means like, this was my time. This was like, I was actually able to like just go full force, full hog, like, act to the back row, and do all that terrible acting that what we're sort of told not to do on camera, I was allowed to do, which was awfully fun.
That's really
and cool. Yeah, I mean, it was also, I mean, you asked about the process itself. We pretty much would do like full, like do the song in its entirety. So we heard that song hundreds of times that day, probably. But they would just change the camera angles and like do another. Absolutely. And but I remember afterwards, being in one of the the trailers where the directors are, and seeing some of the dailies, and they showed, at this point it hadn't been edited at all. So we saw even just one take, like where they had these giant cranes that were like flying across, and it was wild, especially to act and to sing and to dance, and especially with one eyeball. So here I am, like, I'm like doing my thing, and traversing the room, praying that I don't hit some giant expensive piece of flying equipment or Jessica Lange. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of fancy stuff on that set I didn't want to hit, but I didn't have a whole lot of control with just one eye. But yeah, I mean, it was it honestly did not get old. It was such a fun day. And then like maybe 12 hours later, we turn around and we did the Dr. Arden scenes with me, basically dressing him down, which was a totally like, again, reverse, like, like, okay, now she speaks. Okay, let's do this. And
I'm sure you got the song in your head after hearing it that many times.
Oh, I've got it in my head right now, just talking about it. And the name game.
I'm assuming there was a lot of choreography done for that scene as well.
Yeah, we did have a little rehearsal beforehand. I want to say it was like me, Jessica, Evan, Sarah, and a choreographer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the the folks that were really moving, you know what I mean? Like, again, with the cameras and whatnot, that was necessary. The, you know, for the most part, the others that were mostly, you know, background were able to just stay in place.
Okay.
So they knew, you know, rock out and do your whack, you know, be your, you know, we had pretty much your staple. If you watch the show, you'll see kind of the same dirty haired kind of like, you know, crazies over and over and over. So they knew their kind of characters, so to speak. And so they were able to just do their thing. It's just now they're sort of singing and dancing with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, so can you please also walk us through the entire creation of Pepper, such as the makeup and how you have to portray her?
Sure. So the makeup was basically a prosthetic nose and brow with these like eyebrows that had been like, you know, actually sewn in one hair at a time. Let's see, that was one piece. Then they had the prosthetic ears. They had the prosthetic arms. They had the fake teeth. They had the wonky eye. Basically, all those pieces were made to fit me specifically. You know, they were made like from a mold. They were one-time appliances. So once they're applied, they're no good anymore. So it's obviously, these are expensive pieces. I would say the makeup was probably more expensive than me. You know, they basically like lie you back and, you know, glue it all down. And then they, with an airbrush, kind of go in and paint to cover up all those seams. And they did such a good job. I mean, at the end, when they would have to take it off, that was the hardest part. It was like just finding the seam. You know, they'd be like jabbing away. I'm like, nope, that's my cheek. You know, nope, that's me. You know, but yeah, oh, and of course they shaved my head for Asylum. They actually kept that little piece of hair, and I just kind of wore a wig around to my, you know, normal life. For Freak Show, I think it was probably just as a courtesy to me, since Salty was just a normal like bald dude, that they allowed me, they just shaved my head completely so I could just be a, you know, bald dudette with him. And then they had like a little hair piece for me that they glued on before every, you know, every work day. But yeah, so the whole process took about, you know, 2.5 to 3 hours.
Oof.
Every time we worked. Yeah.
Were you hesitant on shaving your head at all?
No, I mean, when they first asked, I was like, back up. What is this exactly? Like, I just wanted to make sure this wasn't like a director's reel or, you know, as some, you know, music video, somebody's YouTube. Like, you know what I mean? That would be my luck. I shaved my head and all of a sudden I'm being pranked by, you know, somebody's jumping out of the bushes, saying I was punked or something. Anyway, so, you know, once we established that this was a real thing and I was on board, I didn't really know why, like, why me? Because, you know, like I said, I'd really kind of struggled up until then. You know, as an actor, I'd been, I mean, I'd been kind of doing my thing, but I you know, I'd had some one-woman shows that, you know, were everywhere from off Broadway to Edinburgh's Fringe to West End in London. You know, I had a YouTube channel and a ton of work on there, a lot of which I'd kind of honed at the Groundlings, which is a theater here in LA. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not like I hadn't acted before. I just wasn't being cast in a traditional way. And so for all of a sudden to be cast in a very traditional way by one of the biggest shows on TV, in what seemed like one of the most unusual roles on TV, was a little like, why me? Like,
Right.
I didn't understand. Like, if you're casting Chloe Sevigny and Marc Consuelos and all these, big names in basically itty bitty roles, like, what are you doing casting this total no name in an itty bitty, but maybe even better role?
Right.
It was all kind of confusing, but obviously I went with it, and
Yeah.
here we are.
Awesome. So I'm taking it that if I asked you to shave your head, you wouldn't do it.
For your
My
interview?
YouTube interview.
No, I don't think so. Thanks.
So the next question I got for you is so can you elaborate on Pepper and the overall story of the seasons? Were you surprised? What were you surprised most about regarding the story when you first read the script from both seasons 2 and 4?
So I never read the scripts from season 2.
Okay.
They were just not available to me.
Right.
I mean, I was still a nobody, and
Right.
so would I when Sister Mary Eunice says, "Oh, Pepper, she killed her mother, her sister's baby," but whatever it was,
Right.
that line, I remember kind of like, giving that little like mischievous look, like maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And the fact is, I didn't know. Like, I
Right.
assumed because it said I did. I assumed I did, but I didn't read the scripts.
Right.
I remember, in fact, I was in New York doing one of my one-woman shows while we were shooting Asylum. And I remember getting a phone call saying, "You're back next week. We're dropping off the script." They don't send it electronically because that's too dangerous. So, they're that secretive. They want it like delivered to your door. So I was like, ah. So literally they were like pushing the pages underneath my door. And of course I wasn't home. I was in New York. So I had my neighbor go in and like look up the pages for me. And even then I was like, "So what does it say? What does it say?" And he's like, "Pepper goes pee." And I'm like, okay. So like, just to give you an idea, I literally had no idea like what was going on. All I ever got was my pages, which, you remember how little, like, Pepper just sort of, she's literally peppered in. And so I really, other than doing Schlitzie, I had no idea what was up most of the time.
Right.
For Freak Show, I did get full scripts, and that was really helpful. And it also just helped me feel like I was part of it, like I was at the big kids table. Absolutely. Like I was, but also, I was on location. I was literally like, had like quit my day job and was like living in a hotel with the other freaks. And so, for lack of a better word, so yeah, it made sense. Like, absolutely. What else did I have to do? I literally had nothing else to do but read that script. So, I forgot what the question was. Except
what were you most surprised about regarding the story when you read like the script for your character?
So yeah, there you go. I couldn't say for season 2, although I do remember being in the makeup chair, and as we were getting ready for the Dr. Arden Pepper post alien abduction, I was literally like, okay, wait, when you say normal, like, the thing is, Pepper's that is Pepper's normal. So you're saying like change her personality? Like, when you say normal, do you mean like Naomi? Like, there's still like many shades. Like, I could be like Dr. Pepper. I could, medical professional. I could be like Guru Pepper, like there's many different ways we could take this. And so obviously I had a lot of questions and not a whole lot of time to get those answers. And even then, I was literally like, asking the makeup people, because those were the only people I really had a lot,
Yeah.
hours and hours of time with. And, and sure enough, they would like, text the producers and text back an answer, and okay, well, what about this? They text them that, so that's how I got my answers there.
Okay.
As far as Freak Show goes, oh God, I forgot your question again.
Like, what were you surprised most about your character?
What was I surprised most? I mean, I guess because I got the full scripts, I was less surprised.
Right.
But obviously that whole Freak Show, or I'm sorry, the Orphans episode was a surprise, because I'd spent, as I said before, 9 whole episodes wondering what the heck I was doing there. Right. Did they really like break all their rules just for me to like be in the background playing with string and
right.
And so sure enough, so that was obviously when I all of a sudden was in the foreground, weeping on the daily. That was a surprise. But at the same time, I mean, why should it be? Like I had to, it's like deep down I knew they would justify bringing me back.
Absolutely.
It just didn't seem like it ever happened.
So the next question I got for you, so do you feel like that you are, since you're so famously known as playing Pepper, that you are pigeonholed into playing roles similar to that of Pepper, and can you explain?
I hope not. I mean, let's face it, we haven't really seen a character like that since like 1933.
Right.
And I cannot afford to not work for another 80 years. No, not at all. Although I gravitate toward those sorts of roles. Like, I guess maybe with the short hair, I tend to give, and I mean, I'm kind of a bossy, no nonsense, opinionated, kind of confident chick. So I think I kind of put that out there, and consequently I tend to get kind of like lawyers and that kind of audition.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. If you're the creator of like some legal drama, like I will accept a part on your show. That said, those are not parts that feel organic to me. Like right. Even though I seem like I may look like this person with my like short little like pixie, boss hairdo, right. I'm actually much more comfortable like making grunting sounds and right. And just weird characters. That's really where I kind of get off. Like I like I don't know. It's when they say like there's something off, or there's something like a little like quirky or right. eclectic, or that's when I'm like, oh, thank God, right. Like I just don't make me be Kerry Washington. She's amazing, but like that is not me. Like I right. cannot rattle off like legal right. dialogue like that. It's just not like I can grunt and right. make monosyllabic noises till the cows come home, but sound articulate like Carrie, no way.
I think that would be hard for a lot of people though to do all that. Even if I watch some of those medical dramas, like how do they know this from that? Like I would never be able to memorize all these body parts.
Brutal. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm in the process right now of memorizing my new next one-woman show. Awesome. Which is like this thick. It's 70 pages. It's single space. It's right. no joke, but it came from me. Like I wrote it, like I labored over every word. Like I chose whether it was an or a the. Right. And so like, it's actually, I'm memorizing it in like record speed. It's like absolutely. The cinchiest thing ever. But yeah, you give me dialogue, mm-hmm. like we're saying, like, just jargon, medical legal speak, forget it. I'm like Pepper, brain dead dumb.
Peppered, yeah, pun intended.
Yeah.
Next question I got for you is, so what was the hardest part about playing Pepper and why?
Hmm. Uh, I mean, she came very naturally to me. I think, I think, I had to be very sensitive because this is a real life, disease, microcephalia.
Right.
And so and let's face it, I came from comedy. Like I'd been doing kind of improv and sketch down at the Groundlings for all this time. And so I needed to make sure I didn't look like I was making fun.
Right.
And so, I always had that like line from Tropic Thunder in my head, like, don't go full retard. And so it was like, there's a delicate dance, like there's a
Right.
fine line between being real
Yep.
and going caricature. And so I think that probably was the biggest challenge for me, was like just really being very delicately calibrating that.
Yeah.
So that because again, I love to crank it. I love to go full force.
Right.
And that's honestly where I feel like I'm, that's one thing people don't know about me, because they if they only know me as Pepper, they think of this as this very delicate performance. But yeah, like if I got my choice of careers, I would have been on SNL this whole time doing like,
right.
Toonsis the cat and, the cone heads and like doing these like big over the top characters.
Right.
So I had to be very careful not to go there, especially because, given the character, I knew why they cast someone like me as opposed to, a real life microcephalic. I mean, obviously, post alien abduction, like they weren't going to be able to do that.
Right. Absolutely.
So, there was reason to cast an able-bodied person in this role. But at the same time, I woke up in cold sweats worrying what, the disabled community might think of me. And, I was very pleasantly surprised. For the most part, it's just been nothing but a love fest, really.
That's awesome.
Between us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the next question I got for you is something unrelated to Pepper to an extent. In season 8, Apocalypse, you played the role of Samantha Crow. How did your appearance in that season come about, and how was playing this role much different than playing Pepper, and what were the biggest challenges to separate from both of them? So,
yeah, I learned again in probably March that I would be back for that. The challenge again was just the lack of information. Like I'm just like the last to learn anything. Right. So I knew I would be back. I didn't know the character. I didn't even know I didn't even know Apocalypse until I read about it, on social media like everybody else. Right. I want to say it was a week before we were to start filming. And even then, I think I don't even show up till 5 episodes in. So I'm like, so, yeah. Okay, like, are we doing this or not? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I got I knew I was coming back, but it was like, I hadn't gotten the phone hadn't rung. So, right. So when I did get the call, it was, you're working next week, sending over the script, but even then it was only what I was in. So I didn't have any idea. And at that point the show hadn't even been airing, so I couldn't even really, I had no idea what we were doing. Right. The role at the time, the name of the character was a real life Satanist from history, who was like this socialite New York, right, somebody who was married into the Church of Satan.
Okay.
And so I got excited, like as an actress, I was like, oh my gosh, I can like research
Right.
this person. And so I did all this research, and I bought myself a satanic Bible, which of course didn't get there in time. So but I remember being at the fitting and asking my asking some questions about the character, and they were like, oh, no, you're not her anymore, because if you were her, you'd be like 80 years old right now. We don't have time to fit you for prosthetics. Like you're just like a generic Satanist. You're not that lady. Which I was like, oh, okay. Literally, we're shooting tomorrow, and I'm learning like who I am. In a way, it was freeing. It meant I no longer had to feel like beholden to this person. Like if I had other ideas of how I wanted to play it, or what direction I wanted to go, I was welcome. I didn't have anyone telling me otherwise. So that was cool. I mean, it wasn't bad news. It was just, again, it was, it was like, right. It's like, I didn't have a lot of information.
Right. Now, did you know you were going to be the satanic character from the beginning, or did you think that maybe I'm going to be a Pepper returning?
I didn't know. I like I said, I heard you'll be back.
Right.
And then it wasn't, I mean, I figured I probably wouldn't be Pepper when I didn't get a call by the makeup asking me to come in to fit for prosthetics, because that takes time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, that was my only indication. That was my only indication that I was Pepper the second time, was the fact that I was fitting for all these prosthetics. And so I was like, well, it sure seems like that,
Absolutely.
Like, I don't really know until I get there.
Right. So the next question I got for you is, in the future of American Horror Story, what would you like to see explored that hasn't already been explored before?
My brain doesn't work like this. I feel like a lot of people are like, they're constantly dreaming up, sirens and aliens and this and that. Like, I don't like the stories that I create, like my shows tend to be autobiographical, and fortunately are not horror stories per se. They're more chick flick. I've been very blessed in that regard, but I would say, I don't know. I mean, I just saw a post, I guess it was Ryan Murphy saying, vote for whatever storyline you want to see. And obviously I'm going to vote aliens, duh. Like, I want to see Pepper kicking it with some aliens. Like, I just want a job as usual. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Yeah, I'm just trying to not conjugate verbs, okay? For money.
I know that feeling, by the way. I'm actually in the middle of learning Spanish, and this conjugating verb stuff is...
Oh, yes. Well, I'm sorry I can't help you with that. I mean, I could, but like, I gave that up.
I absolutely understand. Hey, next question is actually Pepper kicking it with aliens. Do you think that we can see a return of the aliens in a future season? And maybe Pepper is with them since she was announced in season 2 of passing away. Maybe they pulled what they did with Kit Walker and, abducted her.
Ooh, I like that. See, you are thinking the way I don't. Like, I don't.
I am a filmmaker, a screenwriter, and an author.
Amazing! You should absolutely get going. Write a spec script for American Horror Story. Send it on.
There we go.
Let them know. Find out. Maybe there's a staff writing position.
Maybe.
Write me in. Put me in, coach.
That would work. I would love that.
I love that idea. I mean, we have not explored that. So I think
Right.
I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. And I think Pepper, doing, being with some aliens, and, exploring that. Because let's be honest, in season 2, we got some aliens, but it was never really explored to the extent that it could have been. And I think like season 2 was really bulked with horror tropes. Like it had, of course, the demon possession, the nuns, and all that stuff, and the asylum, and all that different stuff that it had so much there that it couldn't really get into every single thing it wanted to. So I think a full season with the aliens, bring Pepper and Kit Walker and all that back. Maybe the Kit's children had something to do with, was involved.
I love that. Yes. Write it up.
That's gonna be right on. I'm putting that right on my to-do list. We're gonna write that up, and the first cast member, Naomi Grossman, returning as Pepper.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Next question. So if you were asked to return to a future season of American Horror Story, would Naomi Grossman make her return to our screens?
I mean, I literally just finished with I'm trying to not conjugate verbs for a living, so let's see. Yes, no, of course, I mean, it's such a dream show. Like you're working with the best of the best in every way, from Oscar and Emmy winners, and not just in acting, the makeup to the I mean, even the guy pulling the rope to make the tent windy is like, he's the best, tent puller in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Everyone is just the top of their game, and it is so inspiring to be surrounded by such talent in every aspect. So yes, I mean, any actor would be a fool not to want to be on this show.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. 1,000% on that one.
Yeah.
So last question, all about Naomi Grossman. Do you have any projects in the works that you would like to promote, as well as any social media accounts or websites that you would like to plug for our listening and viewing audience?
Oh, well, I as I've mentioned, I have a new one-woman show that I'm working on. Which, I'm about 1/3 memorized at this point. So I need 2 more weeks I need 4 more weeks like the last 2, and I'll be fully off book.
Awesome.
You can, well, I can just tell you, it's called American Horror Story.
Ooh, clever.
HORE. It's really like a love letter to the show and to fans. It chronicles my kind of history of hustling, hence the horror reference. And in it, we see me as pre-Pepper, post-Pepper, as Pepper. It's definitely, it's for the fans. This one's for the fans, and it got me through this pandemic. That's pretty much what I did over the last year. They always say, like, difficult times make for great art, and so I'm just hoping that's what this is. I know I'm very proud of it. I don't know exactly when and where it's going to happen. My hope is that it'll be, we can make it into one of these like 1-hour comedy specials. I see no reason why not. People are running out of stuff to see on Netflix, so
exactly,
why not this?
Absolutely.
So and with the pandemic, I do feel like it's almost more likely to have that happen than gather in a theater and watch it the old-fashioned way. So I'm actually quite optimistic as far as that's concerned.
Nice.
But therefore, I'm going to need everybody to follow me on the socials. I'm at Naomi W. Grossman across all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm on TikTok now. Actually, I think it's just Naomi Grossman on TikTok. But regardless, I got the blue check mark. You'll know it's me. But that's how you'll know when and where to see it, since I don't actually know yet. Again, I'm the last to know anything about anything.
I might be following you on my personal page. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty confident though, because I followed a lot of people on. I don't know if I follow you on Slasher Scotty, because that one was just created not that long ago. So I will give you a follow, of course, on there as well.
Thank you. I
and
appreciate it.
No problem. And I have one quick story to tell you. When you mentioned American Horror Story, this is a funny story from work. I work for the U.S. Coast Guard. I'm the senior developer. So this is funny. This is before the pandemic. I work from home now because of the whole pandemic and everything. But when I was at the office the one time, like I have a very loud, and my voice is so heavy it carries type of voice. And at the office at where for the Coast Guard and everything, we have like people in uniforms and all that stuff, and like we're in it's a cubicle environment and all that. So it's pretty crazy, like where you can hear really anything anywhere. And my voice is so loud, you could probably hear me on the other side of the building. So I obviously was telling, and I was here, I've been there now for almost 2 years, but I was working there. I was probably there for maybe a couple months at the time. And I started becoming pretty close with my direct supervisor. And and he was like, I was talking to him about my movie that our first feature film that we were doing. This is it was released in 2020 October, but we were getting ready to film it and it was like August 2019. We were getting ready to film it. So it's a horror film, and my accent is horrible. So I ended up, I have that.
What's the accent?
I'm from Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. We have like our own accent, like it's Pennsylvania Dutch kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So, and I live in Maryland, of course, but I'm bringing my Pennsylvanian accent to Maryland. And I'm telling, so he's asking me, what kind of movie do you make? Because he knows my accent. I'm like, we make horror movies. He's like, what kind of movies? I'm like, horror movies. He's like, don't say it that loud. People are thinking you're making a porno. Because the way I literally, like my accent, and when you mention American Horror Story, I thought immediately that is my accent.
That's so funny. I don't think I have an accent, but I do know that when I say like American Horror Story, like when I say it, I also like it's sort of the same. American Horror Story. Like it's just a slight horror versus horror.
Yep.
Like it's just one R versus two.
Right.
But ultimately they're the same,
Yep.
It just doesn't feel natural to say horror.
I know. That's my mom, because of the accent. My mom always she goes horror, and I'm like, Mom, it just sounds so forced.
Horror. It's very subtle.
Well, I thank you so much, Naomi, for joining me. Before I let you go, I just want to let everybody know, if you're watching this interview on YouTube, please give me a subscribe to my channel. If you liked the interview, give us a like, and also leave a comment. To discuss about the interview, what you liked about it, what you didn't, maybe what you think I should have asked, whatever. I mean, I love interacting with my followers and subscribers. I will, of course, interact with you. And then if you're listening on the audio platforms, whether it's all the podcasting sites like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Castbox, OpenBox, Verbal, Breaker, and all the other podcasting platforms, give me a rate, a comment, a like, a subscription, whatever you can do on there as well. Again, I thank you, Naomi. It's been an honor. I thank you for making time for me.
Oh, it was fun.
It was definitely fun.
I got to get my words out, for during these quarantine times.
Yes.
It's like, I thank God I have people wanting to interview me, because otherwise I wouldn't talk to anyone. Absolutely.
And one last plug for Naomi. Obviously she has IMDb. So after this interview is up, I'm sure that she's going to have other stuff that might be in the works. And if she does, go to her IMDb page, check it out, and you'll be able to see anything that she has updated and has coming out as well. All right.
True.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And you have a great rest of your day, and please stay safe.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Okay. You have a good day. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.